This movie is automatically a classic. It's one of those films that you wouldn't expect to be amazing because how DreamWorks sold this movie to Netflix. Maybe because DreamWorks is kind of struggling to make money in the theaters, but it's sort of disappointing this not was in the theaters because how good movie really was. It's one of those films that I need to compare it to another one. I'd like to compare it to Inside Out. This is their answer for Inside Out. That because instead of focus on a emotions, what that means to a person, what that emotion is important, they sort of focus on something completely different of a child being scared of the dark and all the things that come with that darkness, but done in a story of another story, but done a very smart, clever way because the more you keep watching, the more you realize the characters are speaking very sophisticated, more adult like, that childish, that you realize, oh no, this is basically a story of a story because the very beginning of this film, they don't tell you that. It just, you hear the kid Orion narrate his life story, but yet you don't realize, oh, this is sort of inconsistent. This is sort of do not trust the narrator because we're not telling the truth. But no, it completely throws you off because it's of a story because O'Brien is explaining to his own daughter what actually happened to him with the darkness. Yeah, I found that sort of fascinating because how he depicts it, how his fears sort of mold who he is, but yet he was scared of everything. And yet ask that question, what are you scared of? What to be afraid of life if you don't live it? But especially scared of the darkness. And that is sort of kind of relatable because you do understand O'Brien. You feel his pain. You feel that fear. But at the same time, O'Brien could be annoying for some viewers because O'Brien could be that kind of negative type of person. But I love that the movie points out everybody was O'Brien at a certain point in their lives or been that moment, that overthinking. I mean, O'Brien just overthink things to the next level. Like he afraid to flush the toilet because he was afraid to drown the whole school and it got clogged. And that is just weird, but yet understandable. I mean, especially that age of 11, he's a fifth grade, he's not sure what he's doing, especially afraid of everything, afraid of standing up to himself. In fact, to compare this character, he remind me of Monk. If you've never seen that TV series, that detective who afraid of everything, imagine that Monk, that character in a younger version, paranoid, he couldn't do anything. He's basically immobilized himself to actually do stuff or even talk to people in general. But I love it how they point out it's just sort of a phase. You just need a push. In fact, this is the reason why his parents always trying to encourage him, like, yeah, fear is okay, sweetie, but you need to face it sometimes. You have to really push there. But his anxiety is just so overwhelming that you just kind of get it, but at the same time, it could be a little annoying. But once again, that's the whole point. He could be a little too much judgmental, too annoying, too passive aggressive because he just sees everything as a bad thing. He feels like that old man who done everything, sort of unhappy. His life wasn't tragic, but you realize no, this is a 11-year-old child who just afraid of things. But this is the most interesting thing because you find out Darkness got just tired of his ass. He just tired of this child constantly being scared of him. And Darkness reappears saying, look, I'm not that scary. I'm just doing my job, kid. Let me help you. Because Darkness deals with this kind of child multiple times. He has a list. Not one, multiple lists of multiple people who are technically scared of him. But I love it. He's trying to give compassion to this child to understand. Stop being scared of something that nothing really happens, and that's sort of interesting because Darkness trying to hold his hand and show the world of the darkness, like what strange noise you hear because you have other identities, creatures there. They represent like things like sound, sleep, nausea, dreams. But I love it how interesting their job is because they cannot just shoot things and do their jobs. Sometimes they have to sit down and work with a person to figure out how to help them. And that's just sort of interesting. Or sometimes they do just shoot things like dream, not dream, sleep, that she quite literally had to smack people, punch, or suffocate with a pillow just to pull them to sleep. But I love that sort of question, like, you think this is not wrong, but at the same time, you kind of get it that she done this so many times. Maybe she doesn't want to care anymore, but she is a professional. And I think that's why I really enjoy it. They do play with the concept of all this sort of kind of jobs they have in the dark. But I love it how creative it is sometimes. Like dream that she had to go inside the person, have to actually build a dream, understand their psychology, and build everything around them. That I really want to see sort of a dream spin-off series of this movie because I want to see her job more, to see how she deal with it, how she had to deal with nightmares or dreams or positive or people interfering in her job, because I feel we have so much potential of that. But at the same time, I love the other aspect of all the characters, like Quiet. Like there's a character that is just muted. I mean, she talks, but she's just so squeaky. But her important job is to take noise away. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how she had to deal with that, even that she really doesn't speak loudly. Like I love all the side characters they make for this universe. It's just sort of interesting. I think one of the biggest takes about this film is the fact is O'Brien in the dark. Like how they try to make it work. How Dark convinced O'Brien to not be scared of, but it's sort of a debate. Like every time the film goes on, that darkness shows something of O'Brien. O'Brien debate that is sort of dangerous, that's sort of wrong. Like he just see the negative things, and the darkness like, bro, come on, you have fun. This is the beauty of darkness. You have to relive your life. And how O'Brien reproaches is sort of kind of not wrong answers, like putting your hand on the lake to refresh yourself. But sometimes if you do that, someone will butt you in the water, right? And that kind of argument going back and forth is sort of interesting and kind of fascinating because sometimes one of the characters do give a very strong point than the other. But a little bit, this movie doesn't really have bad guys. It's one of those they jumped in, oh, we don't need a bad guy because the character is the bad guy. It's like you're trying to convince this person who has a problem or a mental issue. You're trying to tell them you have to realize you have this. You have to confront it. But at the same time, it doesn't hold your hand because maybe he to confront this sort of fear O'Brien has. That fear will always be there. It just you need to sort of control it. They really have this sort of conversation of what is fear, how to take care of it. But at the same time, how fear is sort of important sometimes and not sometimes. But I also love how they explain the job they have is also very important of all the other characters. And O'Brien sort of kind of screws it up a lot of times because his fear, his judgmental ruins their job and they have to push him away. They get pissed off the kid. The kid did something very questionable that almost, well, I'm gonna leave it like that because I don't want to spoil it, but if you see the movie, you know what he did to Darkness. And you just kind of get their emotions like, I thought we'd be bros. And what he did to him, you couldn't understand why Darkness feels betrayed. But at the same time, it's sort of a way to deal with things and also questioning maybe it's not the way to deal with it. But I love the other story that is a story with the other story that at the very beginning of this film that doesn't tell you. You just sort of kind of give a second thought or sort of confusing because you will be confused when the second story kicks in, the other author, and you just sort of surprised because you kind of make sense why they did this because how Brian speak because speaks a very doltish way that he's like a baby, a very talented person who maybe write books or do some maybe scientific work. Maybe the movie never points out what O'Brien does his older self, but you get the idea how sophisticated it really is. In fact, this movie try not to hold your hand. It's more like you get it. Oh, they don't gotta hold your hand, but you just need to get what O'Brien is scared of. It should not be scared of. You have to sort of face it. But I love it how everything kind of works. I mean, even the story of a story, because at the very end, they sort of kind of get stuck, sort of how to end this movie or end the story with O'Brien with his daughter. But the whole trick of that is to convince her own daughter to actually give an ending, give her opponent ending, to sort of face her own fear using his story to actually end it. And I love that sort of generations kind of technique, telling stories to their own kids, to the next generation, to face their own fears without actually holding your hand. Because the very end of the movie, it kind of surprises you with another twist and with another twist, because it doesn't hold your hand. It just sort of, if you get it or you're not. Yeah, I think that's why it's so special. How this film is a classic automatically, because it's just that good. Of course, has that one prime, O'Brien could be annoying to you. That I'm not surprised some people would hate him, but that's the whole point. He became the sort of kind of unsolvable, but he realized maybe I should stop being scared, start moving my life. And that's a really good lesson to actually learn, especially at that age of 11 or 10. That point, you sort of questioning everything, be scared of everything. That point to actually face your own fears. It just works. Now, the animation, it was pretty good also. It's something I just enjoy because the animation feels something like a, not a comic book, more like a strip. If you don't want to talk about that sort of newspaper strips from comics like Garfield or McDougal, you just have 4 or 5 panels. They have that sort of simplicity, sort of art style that just grabs your attention. It's just so enjoyable. I really appreciate that. It's something that they needed. That sort of art style feels so unique and refreshing. It just grabs my attention because DreamWorks doesn't has its own art style. It just sort of depends what they want to do with the story. But other than that, the animation is great. The character design was great. The whole story was actually wonderful. In fact, you have to put you side to side to Inside Out and Brian in the Dark. Which one would be the strongest one? I'm gonna have to say Brian in the Dark, because let's face it, Inside Out is a good film, but the main heroine of that character is sort of annoying. Like, kind of, like, you really don't get to know the girl with the other personality control, but you feel sort of annoying in a way. They never really dive that deep because you focus on the emotions. And that's why I feel that movie is, you could say, sort of a classic, but not really, because it drags that specific problem. Brian in the Dark fixes that. That sort of fixes that. Yes, I realize the main character is annoying, but he fixes himself. He really is improving himself. That's what this movie makes so good, at least to me. I don't know you. That, in fact, how you felt about the movie. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Tell me down below. Let me know. Honestly, I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.